The meeting is now open for sharing testimonies of healing through Christian Science. Donna from Oregon, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. A little while before Christmas, I decided to do a small project that was long overdue. I needed to put quarter-round molding around the baseboards in the bathroom. I'd been putting it off because I'd never used a miter box before and thought it would be hard to use. I was pleasantly surprised to find it was extremely easy and fun. I did have some problems getting the pieces nailed in, especially behind the toilet. The area was so small that I didn't have enough room to strike the nail with the hammer. It was very frustrating. I decided to stop everything and ask God what I should do. The thought immediately came to me, use a stick. That sounded so funny that I figured the idea must have been mine and not God's. I went down to the tool room to see if I could find a different tool. I found something I thought might work that I needed. As I was leaving the tool room, a stick about 2.5 feet long caught my eye. I brought it upstairs with me, but tried the new tool first, which didn't come even close to working. I then tried the stick. I put the stick on the nail and hit the other end of it 3 times, and the nail went in perfectly. I laughed a little. I said, I guess it was your idea after all, God. I'm learning in this church that I don't have to have a life-threatening problem for God to help me. He's always present and will help me on even the teeniest, tiniest problems, and He's glad to do it. I just need to practice listening to Him. I am so grateful to be a member of the Plainfield Christian Science Church Independent. It's so different from the Christian Science Church here in town. I especially want to thank the practitioners who are beyond wonderful for what they do for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim from Arizona, go ahead.
Good evening. I wish to express my gratitude for the lovely prelude. They have been consistently outstanding, and I feel that they are just absolutely outstanding. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Chardell.
Oh, good evening, and thank you for the readings. God's promise is perfection, and the wonderful music. I want to thank God, His loving Christ, Mary Baker Eddy, and my practitioner. I was having discomfort and some pain with a tooth. It went on for a while, so I called my practitioner, and much to my surprise, she told me to handle infection, which I did. It wasn't a tooth problem at all. I was guided to study infection, what it is, and how it operates by Herbert Eustace in his book called Christian Science and its Clear, Correct Teaching, starting on page 269. Quote, mind, being infinite, leaves no place where mind is not. No place where morbid infection could arise, no place where it could be feared. End quote. I had to work on this for a while because going to the dentist has not always been a favorite thing to do. A week or so later, when I went for a regular cleaning, there was no discomfort or discussion about the area that had bothered me. I am so grateful to my practitioner for being so alert and providing this healing. Thank you.
Thank you. Luba from Ohio, go ahead.
I'm so grateful for a recent healing I had. My elbow had suddenly become very painful and swollen. I called my practitioner, and she immediately stated the truth of who I really was, and my perfection never changes. This calmed my fears. She also instructed me not to continually check the condition of the elbow. And her words brought to mind a passage in the Blue Book on page 191 where it says, the seed must remain quiet. It must not be disturbed or it cannot grow. It must not be worried. Do not stir the ground. How sad a thing it is to see the fowls of the air come and scratch away the seed ere it has a chance to grow, but how sad to have seed worried and stirred, and then grow stunted and distorted, unfit for fruit. Now on the next page, remember, let the seed have a chance. Watch that the fowl of the air cannot scratch it, care for it tenderly, and then after that take heed that man's hand disturb not the soil. Let the ground remain protected. This is your work, and the result is sure. I'm so grateful to God and my practitioner for this healing and much more, and to Plainfield and Christian Science. Thank you so much for tonight's reading, and I'm so very happy to be here this evening.
Thank you. Yeah, this is Bruce, and I'd like to thank Dede for these wonderful readings that were given tonight, and the theme, God's Promise is Perfection. And it made me very grateful for Christian Science, which teaches that there is a perfect model that we can hold before us and guide us rightly. In fact, in Science and Health, it says we must form perfect models in thought and look at them continually if we would carve them out in grand and noble lives. And we all have issues to deal with and challenges every day, but thank God that there is this perfect model to hold in thought and guide us the right way. I also would like to say how thankful I am for a wonderful phone call that I had earlier this week, and it was from a woman from India who I didn't know, who called to take care of some business relating to our website, our church website. And as we got into the conversation, all of a sudden she just opened up about how wonderful the website is and started reciting individual things, many of them on our website, and how helpful they are to everyone. And went on to say that what we're offering on our website would appeal to literally everyone, not just those that belong to a specific denomination, but really it's universal. Well, we went on with our business, and after we finished it, again, she started raving about our website and finished with this comment saying, "What you guys are doing, don't ever stop doing it, because the world needs what you are offering." I just got on my knees and thanked God that He has done His will here in our church and continues to do so. But another thing that this whole incident meant to me was that we are far more united than what we might think by listening to all the news, which gives you all the divisive things that apparently they like to present in the public view. But that's not necessarily the way things are. I feel, honestly, we are far more united than people might think. United in appealing to the one good God, who is natural good. As it says in Science and Health, God is natural good, and it is natural. I am so thankful. Thankful for this phone call, thankful for the lessons it showed me, and so thankful for Christian Science here in Plainfield. Jeremy.
I'm very grateful for all the much-needed changes that have happened to me because of Christian Science. There were many years that I was very antisocial. I did my best for a long time to keep most people away from me. Generally, if I had to interact with people, I was not nice at all to them. And my basic thought was, if I treat my family well and work hard, nothing else should matter. Well, that didn't work out too well. And when I came here in 2013, it was after a very prolonged downward spiral. It really had everything stripped from me, basically. And it became clear that on all fronts I had failed. And everything about what I thought and believed and did was definitely the cause of that. And that was the biggest reason at that time that I wanted to commit suicide. I believed everything about me as a person was toxic. But then God brought me to Plainfield, and I started to learn what this church teaches. A few points made an immediate impression on me. First, the idea that the garbage I had thought was my identity was just a lie I could stop giving power to. Second, as Mary Baker Eddy wrote on page 253 of Science and Health, quote, "If you believe in and practice wrong knowingly, you can at once change your course and do right," end quote. Well, I certainly knew my old way was wrong, and I was happy to be here learning the new, better way. So, after all this time being here, learning to live Christian Science, it's impossible to mention every change in just 4 minutes. So I have an example from a few weeks ago I thought really showed the changes. I went on a long car ride, and at 2 different rest area stops, I had 4 different people come up to me and ask various questions. There were a lot of other people around, and yet they came to the big guy with a beard, the man that many used to call unapproachable, and I was happy to help them. I thank God, Christian Science, this church, and my practitioner for showing me the way to love my neighbor and also to love myself. Thank you. And now I have a testimony from Diana in Berlin.
Hello, this is Diana from Berlin and Vienna. I'm in Berlin now, and I want to express deep gratitude for the roundtable discussion on Sunday. I felt as if this discussion was specifically meant for me. The instruction that I received was exactly what I needed. For well over a year, I have been dealing with at least 2 people through whom it appears evil is coming. And I have been able to handle it sometimes, and sometimes I can't handle it. And I've been really searching and using the tools that I'm finding through the church, through Christian Science, to help me. I'm so grateful for this instruction from Sunday because it's filled that hopefully final gap that I really needed. The instruction was to know that every channel is God's channel. So these people that are seemingly creating these problems for me, I really need to see them as God's channel. And I've been doing this. I wrote the instruction from Sunday down in my journal, and I have been looking at it every morning and really keeping that in my thought all day long. Whenever I let myself go to a place I don't want to go, where my thinking goes someplace it shouldn't, I go right back to every channel is God's channel. And I am feeling so much more peace. And I'm feeling that there are solutions that are coming where I hadn't seen solutions. And I'm feeling that this is opening a whole new possibility for me, that it's going to be something very good for my life. As disruptive as it is, as much as everything is shaking apart, and as much as it feels like my life is just completely turning upside down, I know that this is for the best. And I've had that before. I've thought that before, but I wasn't able to keep it consistent. I've been able to forgive these people before. I've been able to see them with love before, but I have not been able to keep it consistent. And I feel that I am starting to get there, and it's opening a whole new chapter for me. Now, one of the other parts of the instruction was that the power of divine love is seeing those who we could see as evil as actually being in universal love and as actually being good. Also, the other instruction was to see everything as being controlled by love. God is controlling everything, and just stay with that. I have been working with seeing these people that I could see as evil as separate from the error that is handling them. That I've completely understood and been able to take on. But I would still go back to being just angry that this is coming through them. And now I'm just really knowing They're a channel of God's love. And knowing that Daniel saw the king and the lion as part of God's creation and as working God's love. The instruction was also that if we don't see these channels correctly, it will destroy you. And I was definitely feeling destroyed. At times, I was feeling a lot of pain. I was feeling pain in my body, pain in my hip, pain in my heart. I was feeling stressed, like I was going to break apart. And this isn't all the time, but it's some of the time. And it came in waves. It would come and go. I'm starting to feel that this error can actually disappear. And it is so freeing. And I'm so grateful. I'm finding solutions. I'm seeing solutions. I don't know if they will work out, but I am just hanging on to it very strongly. And I know that only good will come to me. I am absolutely convinced of that. And this piece of seeing these people as being God's channel has changed everything. It's just allowed me to really consistently feel peaceful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Linda.
I'm very grateful to be here tonight and learning little by little how to put my life on the altar for God. Before coming here, I was constantly grasping for control, believing that my goal for human self-improvement was for my own happiness. And many of the self-improvement things that I was exploring were really leading me away from God, and the salvation was escaping problems rather than facing them with God. Now, being here and learning that happiness is only found in obeying God, who is in control of all, and who calls us to serve and set our minds and hearts on Christ, has been such a blessing. I too, like the previous testifier, am also very grateful for Sunday's Roundtable, titled Love's Control Over All, which was filled with many healing instructions, helping us to learn how to love as Christ and to get out of God's way. I'm seeing it's not an easy fix, as I was looking for previously, but definitely worthwhile. I'm just going to share a little bit of an excerpt because it was shared during the roundtable by Martha Wilcox from Addresses, her book Addresses, and the section was titled Our Mission in the World as Individual on page 249. In quote, she writes, Daniel did not believe that his mind was God's presence, and also believed there was a wicked king and a ferocious beast outside his mind. Daniel, because of his conscious oneness and completeness of perfection with divine mind, knew that he included the king and the lions of God's creation within himself. End quote. And the whole section talks about the reciprocal law of being. And it's so beautiful. And like the previous testifier, it's really giving me a new awareness. And I'm looking at everything what I'm expecting from anything that I'm interacting with, whether it's a person, place, or thing. And remembering then to bring everything back to God and that it belongs to God. And there are so many prayers on our website, so many instructions that can help us do that. And I am just so grateful for that roundtable because it has really helped me change some deep beliefs I was still carrying about that made me fear what was outside around me. And now this is giving me a new awareness, and I'm so grateful. I'm grateful for the teaching here, the ongoing teaching, the practitioner support, because I know that if I didn't have this discipline, it would be very easy to drift away from this. And so I'm so grateful for this beyond measure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sharon.
Every day I use the statement, Shepherd, show me how to go, lest my footsteps stray, from Mrs. Eddy's hymn. And on New Year's Day, I prayed this, and I got the thought to stay home and do some extra studying and enjoy my home. Well, after lunch, I got the thought there was a package I needed to return that I was going to mail. And I got the thought, take it to the store. And I thought, oh, I don't know. This could be really a disaster. So I learned when I get these voices, it's God speaking and to obey. Because every time I don't, I get myself in a mess. So I got in the car, I went to the store, and the parking lot was packed. And I said, Father, is this where you want me? And I went down an aisle, and the third car from the door backed out, and I pulled in. So I thanked God and said, I'm very grateful. I went to the exchange counter. There was one lady ahead of me, and by the time I got behind her, she was called to a register to make her return. And another lady said, I'm open now. You can bring your return here. It took me less than 5 minutes to do this whole thing. I am just so grateful that I've learned in this church to listen to what God says and then to obey, not to think I know more than God does, because I don't know anything. I am just so grateful for practitioner help, for the teaching I've had in this church, and for all the blessings. And thank you for the readings.
Thank you. Gary.
One of the many things I'm grateful for learning in this church is the importance of being consistent. Before I got here, and actually for a few years after I got here, I guess you could say I was pretty impetuous. I would occasionally get a good idea. When I was confident that it was God telling me a good idea from God, I would often just kind of drop everything and run off and do what I thought I was supposed to do. Sometimes it would work out, and sometimes I would just fall flat on my face. And it was a bit perplexing to me when I would oftentimes fall flat on my face. But a practitioner in this church helped me. One time I was asking for help with something, and the practitioner said, well, yes, it is important to obey what God tells you to do, but that's not enough. It's also important that you do it the way God wants you to do, and when God wants you to do it. When a right idea is pushed too hard, and, pushed humanly, well, it no longer becomes a right idea. Also, if you procrastinate and end up doing something too late, well, then it's no longer a right idea then either. And Mrs. Eddy states in our textbook, and I quote, "The disobedient make their moves before or after God," end quote. Well, that was a big lesson for me, and something that caused me to begin to calm down and realize I needed to be consistent, not only once in a while, but every day, in seeking God's guidance, not only as to what to do, but how to do it and when to do it. Well, as I learned to do this, I've grown more confident in the things that I do, more peaceful in doing the things that I do, knowing that God, not me, is ultimately responsible for their success. And I'm grateful to say I don't fall flat on my face as often as I used to. I've got a great appreciation for the fact that when I try to will my way through anything, that all it does is create chaos. So it has enabled me to calm down and be much more respectful of what God is telling me every minute of the day. It's been a wonderful lesson for me, and I'm very grateful for the practitioner help, and very grateful for Mary Baker Eddy for discovering this tremendous science and for giving it to us the way she has. And I'm grateful. Thank you, Day, for the readings tonight.
Thank you. Barbara from Pennsylvania, go ahead.
Hi, I just wanted to say thank you for all the wonderful testimonies.
Thank you. Florence from Georgia, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Dede, for the readings, reminding us of who we are. I am so grateful to Christian Science because through this teachings here is how I learned who I really am. I'm grateful for Jesus' promise or instruction that he said from John 5:30, I can of my own self do nothing. As I hear, I judge, and my judgment is just, because I seek not my own will, but the will of the Father which hath sent me. And then Paul in Philippians says, 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. These two verses have helped change my life, and I cannot be grateful enough, because many, many, many times I have had to just simply rely on them, and they have never failed but always brought me through. Some time ago, when we had a business, many days it seemed like I could not go on, and yet I would just use this. I can do all things through Christ. And every time I was able to finish whatever I had to do. I have gained great respect for this and many other truths. They have proven themselves that this is what we have to rely on. It also has taught me that the real self, which is at one with God, alone can do all things through him. For me to think that, oh yes, I've planned my day, I'm going to do what I want to do, that's not it. That's not the self that can do all things. And I've proven that too. So humbly do I remain, Father, thy will be done. Show me thy way. Let me be who you know that I am. And when thinking that way, I have always come through. Recently, just last week actually, I was to read on Sunday. All of a sudden on Saturday night, it seemed like everything's going down. I didn't feel well, but throughout the night, all I kept saying was, I can do whatever God wants me to do. Throughout the night, many, many times, this thought came to my thinking, and I held on to it. And thank God, once again, he proved himself. It's a lesson I can never be grateful enough for, because applied to everything in my life, it makes a difference. I hope that someone, somewhere, will hear this and also seek God the way we should and test him and prove that he is here all the time for any one of us who lean on us and lean on him. And if we trust his truth, the truth always becomes triumphant. I'm grateful for all that Mrs. Eddy sacrificed in her life to give us these truths. And I'm grateful for Christ Jesus' examples. Everyone who has stood with this and wants it to go forward to bless other people. So grateful for all the testimonies, the music, the hymns, everyone else's blessing that they have been sharing with the world. Is blessing the world over. Grateful to be here tonight.
Thank you. Mary.
Hello, everyone. I have a lot to read tonight. So the first, I think it's someone new from South Carolina. Dear Clerk of the Plainfield Church, thank you so much for the printed information you have been sending me since I requested the mailing of Love is the Liberator magazine several weeks ago. I wanted to mention how much I appreciate all the audio that you provide freely. It is very educational and inspiring, and I love to listen. I continue to explore your website and am very glad that I have discovered it. Again, thank you so much. A blessed and beautiful 2019 to all. And then this from England. Thanks for the excellent Bible study and roundtable sessions this weekend. I will certainly be listening to them again this week. I'm also enjoying so much what I am reading during each day of the articles on your website. Yesterday, I found writings by James Gilman concerning his recollections during his work on Christ and Christmas. I understand that Mrs. Eddy felt this was a very important book, and I have read it and considered the pictures without much understanding, so I am really looking forward to reading this. And I would like to give this testimony that happened a while ago. I was working part-time helping to look after the finances of a small private fee-paying school. The fees were paid by the parents at the start of each term, so at certain times of the year there was quite a lot of money in the school's bank account for just a short period. The school, of course, had IT support and all the usual antivirus software in place to keep these funds safe. I usually check the bank accounts of the school not only on my days in work, but also remotely from home each morning on my days off, just to be sure all was in order. Then on a particular day at the start of a term, as I was at home one morning checking, I was led to look at the International Transfers tab of the school bank details. Not something I usually check, as the school never had any transactions coming from overseas or leaving the UK. Nevertheless, that day I felt impelled to sit looking in disbelief at a transfer listed to have the school's bank that day to go on to a foreign country for a huge sum of money, which had certainly not been authorized by anyone at the school. So despite the security arrangements, our system, or perhaps the bank's, must have been hacked. I quickly contacted the bank, who were able to stop the transaction in time, but had it gone through, it would have caused immense difficulties for the school. I cannot say how grateful I was to have been led to see this attempt to steal and to prevent it in the nick of time. It was certainly God working. Subsequently, the bank issued an option for businesses to restrict their transactions to solely the UK. I was and continue to be so grateful for this guidance from the One Mind. I am also so grateful for the Plainfield Church Independent for its services, the continually updated website, the Bible studies, roundtables, practitioner help, and all the dedication which I'm sure goes into all the activities of the church as it reaches out to the world. With much gratitude. And then this is from Florida. Dear church friends, I just received my first subscription issue of your Love is the Liberator magazine. Thank you for this beautiful healing work of prayer and love. Mrs. Eddy would be pleased with it. And then from Virginia, I have found the Bible discussions, roundtable discussions for the past couple of months just outstanding, so helpful and informative. I started thinking how wonderful it would be if they could be put on CDs and sold on the store page. I would buy them in a heartbeat and play them in my car or anywhere. I have listened to them over and over again, as so much material was covered in these discussions, that I did not want to miss a single thought. They have given me so much to think about and have been such an eye-opener to myself and things I very much needed to correct in my own thinking. Just a thought. So in response to that, in years past, that's how we did everything. It was on CDs, and we would mail them out. And sometimes people would have a month subscription or a year subscription to these CDs of services and classes. And it is certainly possible to put them on CDs again. Most of you, I know, listen through your devices. But if anyone would like CDs, that is definitely a possibility. Just request it. I think that we would have to charge a fee for that, for the mailing and the work involved, but we would be most happy to oblige. Okay, and then this is from our church website bulletin board. I'll just read part of this. This morning I woke up early praying, this is from Florida, about the government shutdown. Later I opened an old Christian Science pamphlet on my basket entitled Work Instead of Dream and found an inspiring and comforting excerpt in a lengthy article called God's Elect from the Christian Science Journal of July 1933. I'll just quote a little bit of it. It is imperative today that we recognize the power of the Christ at work, where human thought collectively is striving with problems. If we have believed that error can govern a group of people, how much more vividly should we become aware that the Christ's truth can control it? So, just wanted to mention that this article is by a Julia M. Johnston, God's Elect. It is on our website. It has been for those who might be looking for it. We have featured it on the carousel, and it's also been in our magazine, and we've also used parts of it for watch messages, which we most likely will again tomorrow yes. For our watch message. And there's another very good article by Julia M. Johnson, also on our website, entitled From Zone to Zone. I'll just quote a little of that as well. She says, throughout the realm of reality, there is no danger zone, no war zone. There is no area where evil abides or operates. There is no barren shore, no waste place, no treacherous depth, no uninhabited space, no prison wall, no fearsome power, no enemy land. Then let us know no fear. Let us walk on our way in safety and win the victory over any belief in a power apart from God. In Science and Health, Mrs. Eddy says, the depth, breadth, height, might, majesty, and glory of infinite love fill all space. That is enough. And then also from Virginia, she thanks this other person for sharing it, and also suggests 2 other articles by Bicknell Young, Praying for Those in Authority in the United States of America. Both are very helpful in our work for our government. And those 2 can be found on our website. So, thank you all. Tonight I'm grateful. Thank you for those beautiful readings on our perfection. How important to get back to that always, to know that we start out from perfect God, perfect man, perfect universe. We start with our perfection, knowing that that is what God has created. And there's great healing in that truth. So I'm so grateful for those readings. And also the beautiful music, the hymns, and the testimonies. I was thinking today how sometimes in the New Year's, the beginning of a year, there can be a tendency to look back, perhaps with some regret, in our past. And years ago, I was given this statement by a practitioner that was so helpful to me in dealing with this type of thinking. And it is on page 288 in Science and Health. Mrs. Eddy says, the eternal truth destroys what mortals seem to have learned from error, and man's real existence as a child of God comes to light. So, perhaps you had in your past, which here we know we require, God requires our past to give our past to God, but maybe in your past you've had parents or teacher or someone speak unloving things to you, perhaps calling you stupid or whatever, and that voice is hard to shut down. Well, you can take this truth that Mrs. Eddy gives us, that the eternal truth will destroy what you may have seemed to have learned from error, and your real existence as a child of God will come to light. So what is the eternal truth of this? The eternal truth is that God is your father, mother. He created you, and his voice was the only voice that you could ever hear. And it was always telling you that you are my beloved child and expressing all his qualities. So that is the eternal truth, or one of many eternal truths that you can work with to destroy what you might have seemed to learn from error. Perhaps another would be that there was some injustice done to you and that you seem to be suffering still from this injustice. Well, what would be the eternal truth to destroy that? And in Isaiah, in Isaiah 33, the Lord is our judge, the Lord is our lawgiver, the Lord is our king. He will save us. So, in knowing that truth, that you come under divine jurisdiction, God is our lawgiver and our judge, and he will right any injustices. And you can know this truth rather than mulling over the error. Know the truth, and that eternal truth will destroy what seems to have been wrong. It always has, it always will. I could go on, and perhaps you can too, with a list of things. But if you take whatever error seems to be telling you and destroy it with the eternal truth, it will be destroyed. And anything in the past that seemed to be unhappy or disturbing will just disappear, fade away from your experience. I know I have proved it in my life, as have many others. I am so grateful for these laws and rules of the universe that Christian Science gives us. They can apply to any situation, to any person, anywhere, and they never fail to work because they are based on God. So grateful to Mrs. Eddy for giving us Christian Science and to be with you all tonight.
Thank you.